on this derailment in particular, like Trump's administration they deregulated the industry to the point where ECP brakes were not required on trains with hazardous material, which may have led to this disaster being worse than it actually was. Not to mention the other deregulation and then the layoffs by this company that led to less people being on the trains. Like it's a whole, like the issue, the heart of the issue is deregulation, which the Republican Party, that's what they're all about.
But
and
David,
Brian Kilmeade is just now realizing this.
I have to counterpoint that. What about if you show up and you give everyone McDonald's? Does that make it better?
And sign some hats.
Politically, it actually may.
Yeah, I think so, actually. I was like, whoa, he's using his own partially, you are to blame a little bit here, natural disaster as a press op. And it's probably going to have a good effect for him.
Yeah, in case people don't know what we're talking about, Donald Trump showed up to East Palestine, Ohio, I think yesterday, and showed up at McDonald's there, bought everyone McDonald's, and then talked about, how people are, working hard to get you all help and all this stuff, all this trash. This is after, of course, he deregulated the rails. Like, it's so blatant, so shameless.
Yeah, he's in large part responsible. So he should, in theory, be afraid to show his face unless he's going to apologize. But no, I think that this is optically and politically very good for him because while he is there, he can run this ad. See, I was in East Palestine with Americans while Biden was in Ukraine. Who was there for you? Like I think that politically the Biden administration is kind of fucked up by not doing more and not going there sooner. And I think that this is going to be a political win for Trump for sure. If you look at like the videos, they were like really excited that he was there, not just like celebrity, but like the things that they were saying. It was like, oh, thank you for coming. I'm so glad you didn't forget about us. And even if he is doing this in a very cynical way, obviously, I think that there still is some intrinsic value to just like a high profile figure going there and bringing attention to an issue that they feel isn't being covered enough. So I think that like what Trump did is really great for him, bad for the country. But like Democrats need to learn from Republicans when it comes to politics and just know how to play politics better. And like we shouldn't be discussing politics in the context of like an environmental ecological disaster like this. But you kind of have to, because our system just doesn't care about people. We care about corporations. It's a late stage capitalism, right? But like for Trump to go there, even just for like a quick 10-minute speech and to bring bottled water, like that looks good,
Oh, absolutely.
He brought a dozen cases, only a dozen cases, according to a local news report, of bottled water.
Oh, was it? He said thousands. He's so full of shit.
There's a really funny thing he said too about the water, where he called the water he was bringing Trump water, and then he said that they didn't have enough Trump water, so they also brought some lower quality water. He said that,
baby.
He's the only person that can get away with shit like that. Like, yeah. But for Biden to be in Ukraine, for Pete Buttigieg to actually, Pete showed up today, I think, after 23 days or 20 days. So yeah.
Also, I want to say that I don't want people. I think it's also. I'm not saying any of you did this, but I've seen this. I was on the Majority Report earlier today, and there was people who said that Biden shouldn't have gone to Ukraine. He should have went to here, right here instead. I mean, there's no reason why he couldn't do both. It's not a either or game here. It's not like one is more important than the other. This didn't just happen in Ohio. Biden could have easily went in the weeks earlier and still had time to go to his visit in Ukraine.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I also want to point out that Pete Buttigieg, like, he's usually pretty good at dismantling like the right-wing talking points, but in this instance, he's like shitting the bed. He was asked about Trump going there, and his response was something to the effect of, well, I'd love for him to call for the regulations to be put back in place. That'd be a great help. But it's like, okay, I get that. I understand that you have to say this, but you have power right now. You have to wield the power. Like, if he deregulated, you can re-regulate. So you can't just like...
That's your job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bizarre for him to say, well, Trump should be asking for this. then he'll be calling you out for not doing it. Like,
Yeah,
like,
right.
what are you talking about?
It's like, what are you even expecting? And there was this Daily Caller reporter who approached Pete Buttigieg before he went to East Palestine. And, you know, it's a bad faith propaganda outlet, right? But the questions that she was asking were genuine. Like, hey, are you going to go to East Palestine? What do you have to say to the people who were affected? And he was just a complete dick to her. And then ignored her. Oh, this is personal time now. He's with his husband. And then he stopped to take a picture of her. It's like, okay, can you imagine if this happened on the opposite side? I think that, you know, Democrats would rightfully condemn a public official who is refusing to talk to press, even if it's a propaganda outlet. So it's like you see optical disaster after PR disaster, and then Trump swoops in, looks like the fucking hero after he's the one whose deregulation caused this. It's just so frustrating. And the lesson is going to be overall that, oh, see, Trump cares about us, when in actuality, nobody's really talking about the policies and the deregulation that led to this. And it's not like the only disaster. So back in 2018, I don't know if you all remember this in the US. So there was this lettuce shortage. I shouldn't say shortage, but you'd go into the grocery store and you couldn't find fucking romaine lettuce. And the reason for that was because there was an E. coli outbreak. Dozens of people were sick and hospitalized. And one rule that could have prevented this was taken away by Donald Trump. So, like, we've seen so many disasters as the result of deregulation, but everybody, and when I say everybody, I mean, like, voters in particular, tend to focus on the politics instead of the policy. And Democrats, like, as wrong as they are, they try to focus more on policy, whereas Republicans focus on the politics angle of it. So it's like substance versus, like, you know, rhetoric and whatnot. And there needs to be like a molding of these things, and Democrats need to actually take action, but they also have to look at the politics angle of this and how they're being viewed right now. Because if I lived in East Palestine, I'd be fucking pissed. I'm like, it's been how many weeks now, and the president hasn't visited? Like, this is a massive disaster. Like, this whole area might be uninhabitable. We don't know.
It's very simple. Like, this is not complicated stuff. Just show up there, and like, I get it. Biden's in Ukraine or whatever. Pete Buttigieg should have been there way earlier, or
Right.
as Binder said, Biden could have gone earlier. Like, there's really no excuse, and it's as simple as showing up. You show up. That's enough for a lot of people is to see that, hey, our leadership actually cares. They're actually here, even though, again, yes, what actually matters is policy and what's actually being done. But when it comes to, you know, winning elections, when it comes to gaining support, if you're not showing up, then you're going to lose a lot of people who largely, you know, aren't into politics. Like, that's kind of what you're losing here, because Trump, I don't think is going to gain any Democratic voters from doing this. But what you do possibly gain are people who are disillusioned completely by the political system. But you have Trump showing up and doing what he does, and that can be enough for some people to kind of activate them.
I don't know. Speak for yourself, David. Trump saying he brought some lesser quality water really won me over. I think he's got my vote.
He's entertaining. That's why he wins this shit. Like, he's entertaining for a lot of people, and that's part of his appeal. Which is, it's crazy that's entertaining, but that is.
I also want to point out though that, like, obviously this is an important conversation in terms of how you know, Democrats fuck up on the messaging and the, you know, the visuals and the story that comes out of this from the media, but I also don't want to miss the what's right in front of us here, and that's the reason why Trump did this. And quite honestly, I don't think it had anything to do with Biden. This is his way of digging in at Ron DeSantis. That's where Trump is right now. That's where his mind is right now. This is calling out DeSantis and saying, I own the base, and I'll continue to own the base because I continue to pretend to be the voice of the people when you guys don't. I'm still pretending to be that populist, and the base believes it. You guys don't have that. You will never have it. What stopped we're talking about what stopped Biden from going there? What stopped Ron DeSantis from going there? He's running for president. He's got to face Trump first. This is going to be fresh.
Which is why he hasn't.
He's running.
I know, but he hasn't announced. It'd be super weird
he
if the Florida governor randomly shows up.
He just went to Staten. He just went to Staten Island to talk to the NYPD. He knows he's running. He's running.
Yes, Binder.
Then he definitely should have been there.
Yes, I agree with Binder.
Okay.
1,000% Binder. You're on fire. Yep.
Well, and to add to Binder's point, I don't know if you saw, but Trump put out a truth on Truth Social, whatever the fuck he calls it, and he was attacking Ron DeSantis for wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare, calling him an elitist. So that whole being this populist is, I think, definitely part of it as well. And while we're on the subject of him, I've just got to point out that he said probably the most honest thing, the most real thing ever. Like, he walked into a McDonald's and he's like, I probably know this menu better than you. And it's like, you know what? I believe that. I think he's telling the truth.
Right afterwards too.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but he was likable in that clip. Like, he was talking about how all these workers here look amazing. Like, he was very kind. He bought the McDonald's for the firefighters.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that, like, this, you know, it's very basic politics. It's very simple shit. And if you know anything at all about Trump and policy and what he's done, you know, none of it holds.
Yeah.
But
He
on the
went to
surface
Flint
level,
also,
that's
by the
all
way.
people care about a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, he went to
Why is
Flint,
our
Michigan in
bar-
2016. That made a difference.
Listen, I grow weary. Why is our bar is so low on the ground for white men, son? Like, ain't nothing cute about that job of the hot white supremacist talking shit. Like, we need to stop. We need to stop. We need to raise our bar for charismatic, entertaining. Like, honestly,
I agree, but this is where, we're just analyzing what actually works right now, and this is what's working right now. Like, that's unfortunate, but that's what's working.
And I mean, honestly, is it working? Is anybody new being mobilized? I think it's more, like I said, I feel like what is happening right here, I feel like we're observing some intracommunal shit. This is Republican on Republican. This is Trump on DeSantis. I feel like that's what is happening more so. I don't think he's not mobilizing anybody. No one knew nobody knew, like, it's fine out, but Donald Trump from this and like, oh, this is it. Like, there's no deviation. He's doing more of the same, but he's doing something to demonstrate a message to DeSantis. That's what this is. I don't think he's getting anybody new. I don't think anybody's new. No one saw it and was like, hey, I didn't like that guy, but hey, that Trump might be one charismatic son of a bitch. I don't think that happened. I don't think that went down.
Right.
I think he just got
you're right, yeah.
his fucking nerves. That's what he did.
Right. No one who was like, I was going to vote for Biden, but then I saw that Trump went to East Palestine. But people in East Palestine who met Trump and shook his hand and got that free McDonald's and a Trump Make America Great Again hat, that might be all they needed to push them from even thinking about voting for DeSantis or whoever else in the Republican primary. And they are now 100% for Trump. That sealed the deal for anyone who met Trump that day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I went to school in Ohio. That's actually where I moved there. I spent most of my time in the States in Ohio, and I can assure you, they weren't thinking about Biden. They weren't. He didn't stand a chance.
Let me tell you, if a presidential candidate bought me a Big Mac, I'd start to listen to what they had to say.
At least stay for like an ice cream cone or something.